bed and I sneezed and it blew me right back
I
on
thought
the
we
bed.
were
I thought,
buying. This
this is what getting shot with a shotgun
is
feels
really
like.
a finance
Right.
agreement. And these are.
And they got me this afternoon with all these days.
Got it, okay.
I mean, if you chunk them in.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Board of Trustees, Village of Fredonia public hearing at 911 Church Street, Fredonia, New York, 14063 on this April 28, 2025, beginning at 5:30. This being the time and place for the public hearing on local law number 5 of 2025 entitled A Local Law Establishing Chapter 198 of the Village of Fredonia Code entitled Vendors. Currently, there's no one here to speak.
I make a motion that we end the public hearing, being that there is no one here to speak.
Do we still need to do the proof of publication?
Yeah, I just did.
She showed it.
I'm sorry, I wasn't looking. A second.
Do we need a roll
That motion.
call of trustees that are
Yes, let
present?
me do a roll call. Trustee Esperson.
Here.
Trustee Brockler.
Here.
Trustee Syracuse.
Here.
Trustee Wendell.
Here.
Trustee Twitchell.
Here.
Okay, we have a motion on the table. It was seconded. Trustee Brockler.
Aye.
Trustee Wendell.
Aye.
Trustee Twitchell.
Aye.
Trustee Syracuse.
Aye.
Trustee Esperson.
Aye.
Let's close this section of the public hearing.
I'll make a motion that we enter into executive session to talk about employment within the village.
Second.
Trustee Brockler.
Aye.
Trustee Wendell. Aye. Trustee Twitchell.
Here.
Trustee
Or,
Syracuse.
Aye.
Trustee Esperson.
Aye.
Okay, so be it. Chuck, would you mind closing the door? Thank you, sir.
Here,
Thanks,
aye,
Chuck.
here, aye. Sure, sure. you want to sponsor this? And then
Okay.
I'll
We've got
bring it up
another
to talk about it. But if you
Yeah,
read it,
yeah, that sounds
Look at
good.
all of
negotiating
those
session with the fire
Seconded.
department tomorrow.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to tonight's workshop, the Board of Trustees at 911 Church Street in Fredonia, New York, 14063, on this Monday, April 28th, 2025, beginning at 6 o'clock. I'm Mayor Mike Ferguson. Let's take roll call. Trustee Esperson.
Here?
Trustee Brockler.
Here.
Trustee Syracuse.
Here.
Trustee Wandell.
Here.
Trustee Twitchell.
Here,
Taking a look at resolutions. One, pickleball tournament approval.
It doesn't mention in the revolutions, but that, in the resolution, that's actually being sponsored by the Beaver Club. The
Correct.
woman, yeah, it didn't say anything in the resolution about that, but I think that needs to be mentioned.
In fact, after speaking to members of the Chautauqua Pickleball Club, they're going to be participating in it, so.
I was gonna ask, should the pickleball people be paying a certificate of liability for using the courts?
It's already
For the
covered.
tournament, they are.
No, I mean, as them being a club using,
It's no different than
The
anybody else,
pickleball.
using the courts. I mean, you and I could go play there, and
I
I'd break
do
my
have
leg.
questions about that too. I heard that they charge people to play pickleball.
No, they charge, it's $20 to be a member for a year, but to play, they don't charge. If you're playing at, if you play in the college, they charge $3, and that money goes to the college. If you play in Brockton, they charge $3, and that money goes to the high school. They don't keep any of that money, it goes to the venue.
But also, the club has $1 million worth of insurance and liability insurance already.
So they do have a certificate of liability.
Well, this particular tournament
Yeah.
doesn't because
Oh,
it's being
yeah.
held by the Beaver Club.
No, it does.
Right.
You know,
The tournament does.
it does.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yes.
you're right. You're right.
Yeah, I
Okay.
guess I was just questioning the pickleball group that normally plays there. I have other questions, but I'll save them for later.
Okay. Number two, approval to override tax cap. Number three, approval of 2025-26 village budget. Number four, hiring of patrolman approval.
This is to fill a vacancy. This is
Right.
not an additional added patrolman.
Six,
This is patrolman that's then gonna be going to the academy.
We'll start the academy in Alfred in the middle of May.
Okay, excellent.
number six, dog impound fees increase.
We had to increase those fees because our costs increased.
Right.
so.
Correct.
Standard workday resolution, number seven. Town of Pomfret water application. Number nine, code enforcement fee schedule approval. There was an increase there as well.
We had asked for that because it had been, well, there's some new fees that were not in existence before. But the fee schedule is fairly outdated, so it's just keeping up with costs and what other communities charge.
This in-ground swimming pool, that needs to be per,
That's a percentage, yeah.
yeah, so
Where's
it's,
that?
it's 0.02% or it's 2%? Okay, because that's not what that number is.
Okay,
Percent
anything
of the
else?
cost of the pool. Okay.
If not,
So, yes, so we also, I just gave Michelle a resolution for a fund balance policy override, which we did last year, but it should have been added on to this year also and wasn't.
so that'd be number 10.
Yes.
And trustee Wanda will second it.
Um,
There's a walk-on resolution for the chlorination system from the project. We had sent out for RFPs, and we received one from Labella. So it's so we can get that work started, so they can get that work started.
Right.
So that was modified.
The
The RP was modified.
It was modified because both the village and the Department of Health felt that there were items in there that didn't need to be done. And the time frame was, their projected time frame in the first one was December, and the Department of Health wants that done by September. So once they eliminated a lot of those steps, they were able to hopefully meet that deadline.
Right, and I appreciate that, but the updated RP does not detail what the modifications are. It shows the cost difference,
Right.
updated cost.
It has the steps of everything they're doing.
So anything that was modified in their
It just,
work,
it just is eliminated. Whatever they took out is just, wasn't included in their.
that's what I'm asking. is
Yeah, it wasn't included in the
What was
proposal.
changed, is that shown in the updated RP?
Well, I could read it to you, Paul, if you want to hear it.
You don't have to read the whole RP, I just wanna know what was changed.
No, okay, well, what they eliminated.
It's just the stuff that they took out.
Yeah. They eliminated the SCADA system.
Yeah.
That's not required.
Okay,
They eliminated some of the necessity for having it inspected. They didn't think that that was gonna be necessary. They eliminated the need for asbestos testing because it's only gonna be a small section that's gonna be disrupted.
the chlorine,
Right, right. So there were things like that. Let me see. There's the eliminated one. There's 4 or 5 different things that were eliminated. But mainly they did it as a cost savings and because the Department of Health initially, back in, I don't know, February when we met with them.
yeah.
Remember, that stuff wasn't included in that proposal. So the stuff that wasn't included in the first proposal, they had taken out of their final proposal.
Yeah, it was included in the February proposal, right?
No, the SCADA system was in there, and the Department of Health said you don't need that.
Right, right.
So that was never gonna be done.
Right, so the county was acceptable
Right.
of excluding that?
The county pretty didn't demand it, but they
Yeah.
highly suggested that that be removed.
Okay.
Okay, so that will be number 11. 10 will be the resolution fund balance override, and 11 will be the walk-on chlorination system.
Can we just add the dollar amount to the fourth paragraph by Labella Associates, the 109?
On the walk-on, right?
Yes.
In the fourth paragraph?
Yes,
Of the resolution?
yes.
Which I believe came in under what the original projections were,
The 109,
correct?
Yes, it did.
I think at one point it was up over 123.
Correct.
And how are we paying for this?
I had applied for emergency funding, and if we don't receive that, we will be using our fund balance.
Okay,
Is that
thank
through
you.
New York State?
EFC, yes.
Gotcha.
and we received some information from the health department saying that they found this to be an emergency situation that we could use, that we were able to use to send in with our EFC funding. That's a no-interest grant, so if we get it, there's no interest on it.
For a year,
For a
right?
year, yep.
Yeah.
Yep,
If it's emergency, right?
correct. That's why it's emergency funding.
But
Yeah.
are we declaring this emergency funding or not?
Yes.
Definitely
Yes.
emergency
Yes.
funding.
The county's.
We went through a
The-
boil
the
water.
county-
This up only because this is a point of controversy for the last several weeks.
It's not a controversy. There's a difference between an emergency for funding purposes,
Right.
right, which is what this is, and declaring an emergency to bypass
Oh, I
the
see.
request for RFPs
Yeah.
is
Right.
two completely
A
different.
very different
Right.
aspect of this.
Right.
Yes.
Okay. Okay. Good.
Okay, department reports, code enforcement office.
Just to clarify the pool is $100 plus 2 cents of the cost of the project. So the project is $10,000 times 2% of it. Just as a clarification, if anybody misunderstanding that.
It read as 0.02%, not 2%.
Right.
So that's what had to be clarified.
In doing our due diligence, we actually The fees hadn't been adjusted since I've been here 13 years. So we reached out to the town of Poplar, Hanover, city and town of Dunkirk, and wanted to get our fees close to the village. Plus, we had no fees for the new solar projects and battery storage projects. We had no fees for that at all. So I want to make sure that we have some fees in there when they come forward. So that's what that was all about. But we're actually consistent with our neighbors now. I've got the final plat from Sonic for the planning board to sign. And they should, I think they've started taking in May, so we should see some activity over there.
And the issues with the DOT have been corrected?
Yeah, I got a letter from the DOT saying that they, those hands off because there was nothing going into their systems. So, which we were confused to why they were wanting to make this problem anyways, because this is a in-house storm system that will not send any more water off of that property than what is there now. And under DEC regs, that's allowed. They just can't generate any more runoff than what's there now. So they're doing a pretty expensive system there, and they'll take probably a lot of water from the parking lot and stuff. So it's gonna help that area, I think, but there shouldn't be any major flooding issues or water issues. I believe the DOT may have actually researched it or reviewed it. And I know the engineers worked on it for a long time to make sure everything was done right.
Okay.
So, I'm not sure if the HOP was gonna be on the May's meeting, and storage, the solar project, there's 2 projects that are coming forward, but I don't know if they have all their documentation in place yet, so, I'll reach out to them probably next week, so they got some time. And I do have one zoning board case, it's for a fence over on East Main Street by Clinton, so, other than that, just been very busy.
And real busy. Sure. Thanks. DPW.
Yeah, we had some damage up at Russell Joy last week. That windstorm came through and took down a light pole. Smashed them, pickleball court, took out the fence. I got a few estimates. They're quite expensive. I talked to Alyssa today, see if we can loan from insurance. Not really sure what way we're gonna go on that yet, but it's unfortunate. They're probably 50 years old, those poles and bases, so. That's about it.
Somebody said some of those other poles seem to be loose as well.
Yeah, we've tried tightening them. No go.
I do want to point out as well, speaking of damage, just so the public knows that we're on top of this and realize what's going on. 2 of the flower pots on one of the fountains in Barker Commons have been stolen. And we've had windows broken on the visitors booth this weekend. We will seek full restoration by whoever did take them. If you return them or know who stole them, we're seeing them being used as an ice chest this weekend. Please give us a call at Village Hall so that we can let our police department know their possible whereabouts. So if you've seen our beautiful fountains, they're the nice gold pots that hold the flowers that, for the most part, the public helps us keep intact, along with DPW. So 2 of those are missing from one side of the park, as well as the east side of the park. And then we had damage to the visitors booth. So something we're not used to, but something that we will prosecute if necessary. Yes?
Scott brought up a good point. It was in my office tonight. I have a camera that's in my window that looks out that way. I don't know how long Chip keeps the feed for that, but I wonder if you can go back through the footage and see if you can find out who did it.
Certainly.
There's a camera that goes on the TV. I'm not sure if it hits the fountain. It'll hit maybe one fountain.
Pretty sure it's the traffic. I lay there at 3 o'clock in the morning watching. I can't sleep. You'd be amazed who's out at 3 o'clock in the morning, by the way. Fire department.
Had some training get completed, two career members, completed, and they passed Fire Officer 1, national certification. We had two volunteer members. They're wrapping up EMT right now, emergency medical technician. They'll be testing out in the next coming weeks. A few days ago on Saturday, we participated in a Red Cross Sound the Alarm where we installed smoke detectors for 17 homes in our area, so that was a good event. I thank Red Cross for involving us in that. This coming weekend, Fred Fest, not Fred Fest, whatever we're calling it, I have increased staffing to try to get us by, looking at historic trends the past year, so we're as prepared as we can be for that. And then we're due for some severe weather tomorrow. I'm sure everyone saw it. Just remind the public, don't touch wires, treat them all as down, or excuse me, treat all down wires as live. Or get to calls as we can, but during storms like this, we do see wire calls going on hold for a little while. That's all I have.
Thank you. Police Department.
I've ordered the new parking tickets, that reflect the new fine structure. It'll take 4 to 8 weeks for those to come in. Our new dispatcher is in training. Looks like it'll take a few weeks. She was fairly green. Not much exposure to emergency dispatch, but she's doing very well. With tonight's hopeful hiring of the next officer, that'll fill one of the 2 vacancies, not additional officers, but vacancies from officers retiring. They'll be able to immediately start the academy at Alfred State. And I should have him available to us by October for training locally and starting his shift or career here. Non-Fred Fest is this weekend. You'll see a very high police presence in this village. I apologize to the local public for that, but in light of what has transpired over the last couple of years, we've had 3 stabbings, and last year we had a shooting, and actually the shooter was shooting out of a moving vehicle throughout the village. So to ensure public safety and safety of the students, and we have requested assistance from area law enforcement, so you're going to see a lot of police this weekend. That's all I have.
Thank you. Thank you, Chief, for attending the meetings with all law enforcement, the college, student body, on discussing and addressing this weekend. Hopefully we can put an end to those things. Recreation Department.
Yes, we're having a meeting Wednesday at 3:30 with Kayla, and Ann Eckman is interested, and I'm not sure if you're gonna be able to make that meeting.
No, I work on Wednesday. One
Okay.
thing that I do want to point out is that we were incorrect when we were discussing having out-of-town kids attend the rec program. I always thought that we had let them. Kayla informed us
Right.
that we have not, so we will
Yeah.
not be doing that
No.
this year either.
And also, she's against, charging families, and I am too, this year. I mean, it's too late into the season to figure that one out.
She wasn't against it when we had our meeting. Either was Ann Eckman.
We also
Well,
have a couple of people
This
that
is
have
the
stepped up
latest
to
they've
talk
told
about.
me.
I'll be at the meeting. We have a couple of local citizens that are working on a project to possibly come up with scholarship monies for people.
Yeah,
Well, at this time, I would not want to charge any families
Didn't we already pass that?
right now. No.
I mean,
We
it's-
talked about
it's
it,
kind
but-
of in our budget, but not fully.
Because we would have to split that with the town of Pomfret.
Correct.
Right.
And
So for
we're aware of that.
$3,000, it's not worth it
We're aware of that.
for us, yeah.
So it'll be The fee will be collected and then distributed to the town of Pomfret, according to student attendance and what playgrounds they're at.
We're not gonna do that
accordingly.
this year, though.
We're about to pass the budget with it in it, so we
Is
are.
is it in the budget, Alyssa?
It's listed with the recreation fees.
It
and
is?
We just put in $100. That was what we decided.
Well, I'm gonna vote against the budget because I really don't wanna do that. No. It's not necessary. I've had people come up to me and tell me that they're not happy with this because of the high interest they're paying on their taxes. Why should they have to pay for playground?
We had people at the meeting last year when we
Yes.
talked about eliminating the recreation program, and they said we would gladly pay the kids to go.
Correct.
As long as we had
Right.
the program.
It's too late this year
No, it's
to do
not.
that.
I don't think so.
Too late?
Registration
Don't
doesn't
agree.
begin for another month.
In my opinion,
And we
it's
were
not worth
looking at a
it.
$50 fee.
It's
Yeah.
not
And
worth it.
Yeah, and
it's
then we-
kind of my intention to propose that $50 fee next year.
I don't
And
wanna do it,
I'd like
so
to see a
those are my
$20 fee
feelings.
this year.
Yeah,
I think we're
agreed.
talking about $20, right?
Right.
Correct.
For this year,
For
yes.
this
this
year's
year.
fee, yes,
For this
it'll be
year.
$20.
That was sort of an intro fee rather than hitting them with 50 right up front.
Correct.
20 is minimal.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
minimal.
There are, there isn't a single
We don't
camp
have a
program
plan. Yeah, but
that that is less than $100 a week, so.
But trustee Syracuse, we don't have a plan.
What do you mean we don't have a
We
plan?
don't have a plan on collecting the money, how this is going to work. Wednesday, we will be talking about it.
Well, I think the plan to collect it is when someone signs up, that's when you collect the fee. It's
And-
not
Correct.
rocket science.
Well, it's going to be complicated.
Really?
And I'll report back after the Recreation Committee has taken a look at that.
Okay. If what did you say, 3 PM on Wednesday?
3:30.
3:30? I will see what my day looks like, and if I'm available, I'll call in so I can sit in on that meeting, if that works for you.
Of course.
Yeah, I mean, the fee is going to happen, and then the details just have to be worked out for
I'm against it.
collecting and,
Okay, well
and then
noted.
how it'll be distributed to the town of
against it.
Pomfret.
Wastewater treatment plant report.
We have the parts ordered for the mud valve, for the filter beds, so hopefully we'll have filter bed number 3 back in service soon. We are going to be starting our quarterly wet testing next week, and that's all I have.
Excellent, thank you. New business.
Water treatment plant.
Pardon?
Lewis, report.
No report?
You sure, Lewis? I didn't mean to leave you out. He told me this afternoon, I have nothing.
I want
That would be a lot.
If I could, real quickly, thank Lewis for sitting in that long meeting on Friday. I know there were other places you'd rather be, but I think it was important that you were there talking about the chlorination system, so thank you for your time there.
And along those same lines, John, I want to thank all our department heads who, anytime they're asked to come to meetings, anytime they're asked to provide us with information, they gladly do so, so thank you. RFP for backup generator at water treatment plant would be under new business. Number 2, parking meters in front of the White Inn would be under new
Yeah,
business.
let's talk about that RFP.
Go right ahead.
How much are we thinking a generator's gonna cost? Any idea? Any clue?
No, we don't know at this point,
Okay.
but what we do know is, what is the monthly charge? For at least 18 months, correct? Yeah, so I did the math, 30-something thousand, I believe? Whatever that is. We're renting. That's why I proposed this RFP.
Yeah, I'm not against getting it, I'm just
Right.
wondering if it falls under
Yeah.
the necessity to
To do an RFP?
do RFP, if the cost is gonna be,
I would think so, just because of the installation.
well, we should,
Wouldn't that possibly also fall under general maintenance, because you need the generator in order to run the building?
What does Alyssa think about
I
that?
have no idea what a
Do you
generator
have any
costs.
idea?
It can't be,
I
Okay.
can do the research on that.
yeah, it can't be hard to find out.
I can find out.
Yeah.
I will
That's
make a
great.
note
I mean,
of that.
I think the safest option is just to put the
Just to do
RFP,
it,
yeah, just put the RFP forward.
And then see what it comes in at.
Yeah.
Okay, that's good.
Fair.
I would still like to know what one cost. I'll look it
Yeah.
up.
There's been a request, is there any more discussion on that?
No.
No,
There's been a request, while sitting and taking a look at the meters throughout the downtown core, and taking a look at what we generally think is the downtown core, which would probably be top of Main Street here near Pucci's, and then from a business standpoint, ending at, what's the store next to you, Ben? Ozone?
Ozone.
And the White Inn. There's no parking meters in front of half of the Ozone, and there's no parking meters further on that side of the street. The White Inn has asked to have the removal of the meters in front of the restaurant. One, looks, aesthetics, and two, a couple of them are not even functioning at this point. So there was been a request to have those removed.
Were there just two of them?
There are 5 total, two on two poles and a single pole. But again, I checked them myself, and a couple of them wouldn't even take my quarters, so they're not necessarily generating anything at this point. And I think Mr. St. George has proven his commitment to this community over and over again, even in some cases when we have needed his company in an emergency situation, just jumping on board and taking care of situations. So I'll leave that up to you, but technically there are no parking meters beyond the Ozone on the opposite side of the street.
on the Ozone side of the street, there is
Yeah, there's
one
one.
meter passed in front of the house.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, well, 2
Right.
meters on one
Okay,
pole.
yeah.
Yeah.
And we discussed that too, because you do have a funeral parlor up the street. It kind of seems unfair to ask someone to pay for parking to go to a funeral, but,
Do we have to change how many parking meters we have in the village then, Chuck?
For
How,
it,
how does that work? Or maybe Chief, do you
It's-
know?
it's a local law change,
It's a local law change.
because we don't have the designated spots named, but we have X number, like it's in our charter that there's X number of metered parking places.
Right.
I know there's quite a few missing right now, because in front of the West Barker on Church Street, there are no meters, and there used to be meters. Isn't that correct, Scott? There used to be meters.
meters on Park Place?
On the park side, across the street from the church. There's no meters there. There used to be meters. I think we have to revisit this whole meter thing.
Yeah, changed
I
with the
mean,
park project, they took them all out, and then we were supposed to put them back in. and
Yeah,
We put back in what we
exactly.
had.
Exactly. I don't know, I'm just thinking about this whole meter thing, and about what they do in Westfield. They have 2-hour parking, and they mark the tires, and, you know, they come out and give people tickets if they don't move their car. Maybe that's something we should look into. Chief, what do you think? How do you know how they do that, Chief?
I don't know how they
You
do
don't
their
know?
parking.
Okay.
I could look at it.
I think it can just be as a general conversation about meters versus the app and the key, you know, all of that stuff. I think that can all be lumped in
Chief
together.
and myself and trustee Esperson met with a company called T2, which is a company that the college is also considering looking at what they have to offer. They're gonna send us some more information. It's a little bit pricey, but there's, with the college going in on it, we'll wait and see. We have another demonstration from a company in Erie that does an app or code type of thing that you can use. Keep in mind when you say, well, you're taking away, what about people that may not have an app? We have 2 giant free parking spaces behind that area that frankly we failed to identify. When we talked about that too, having color coding, having some type of standardized sign, it's great that we know that that free parking is back there, but if you're here from Cincinnati, or you have kids in school and you're going out for dinner, you have no idea that that parking is back there. We also were talking about the possibility of, we have several spots in both parking lots that are either used to temporarily dump cars or that are being used from students that don't have parking in the homes on the side streets or don't want to use the parking in the home on the side streets. You can have year-long permits for them to be back there and designate those areas, either in the parking area itself or by a sign. But, so I do think that we need to make this is a discussion for revenue generation and as a growth with the downtown, as we continue to grow. We've got a couple more businesses coming into town, and we want to make sure it's fair. I sat on committees when I was in the city of Jamestown, and I've also watched what they went through in Buffalo. And the argument is, if you eliminate the parking meters, then many owners or many employees will park in front of those shops and leave their car there all day, which makes it difficult for visitors. And if you put meters in, how do they operate, how do you maintain them, et cetera. So I do think it needs to be a topic.
As the mayor said, we had a rep from T2 Systems. We spoke with him for quite a period of time, and for me, the drawback was that we would still have meters. So we would still have the cost of replacing meters, we would still have the cost of buying batteries for meters. My own feeling is, if we're going to go to a system, the system should eliminate the need to have meters, because that's where our costs are.
Correct.
Any other further discussion on that? Also under new business is youth hockey fundraiser requests. And then number 4 would be any other new business.
What's the youth hockey fundraiser request?
It's in your packets. They want to have a fundraiser, just sort of like what the Observer does when they sell their extra copy of the paper.
Oh, that.
They want to stand in the middle of Temple and Church Street on June 14th. I gave a copy to Chief Price, and I was going to put a resolution on the next meeting if the board discusses it tonight.
Chief, you know better than I would, but didn't they change that in New York State that you can't stand in the roadway anymore?
No, New York State changed it, but you can't stand in the
Right.
roadway.
Yeah.
That there's so much.
You can stand on the corners. Yeah.
You can't compare that to the Fireman's Booth Drive. They have plenty of, lights and, you know,
A giant
signage to
fire
show they're
truck?
standing there. And we, as a village, assume that liability.
Yeah, it doesn't say they're gonna stand, it says they'll be stationed safely in the following intersections. So I don't think they'll be standing on the road.
Temple and Church Street, Millard, Fillmore Drive, and
Definition
Central.
of in the intersection.
Millard, Fillmore, and Central would be Dunkirk, so that
Correct.
wouldn't be our responsibility. But I just don't know what you want me to do with this request.
All right.
I guess put it on the next resolution, if you could reach back out to them and let them know when it is, if it is approved, that they need to stay on the curb and not in the street like the boot drive does.
Yeah. But it would be like that fundraiser that the Resource Center does.
Yeah. For the Observer.
Under old basement, which is what we're talking about. Under old business, I've modified this last one, Opera House basement bathrooms. For those of you who attended last weekend, we had over 400 people at a Opera House event, and we still continue to have backup problems in the public restrooms downstairs. I added the roof. This has gone on long enough. This is, at least since I've been here now, the second winter where judges' chambers, the Opera House, were doing significant damage with ice and water and snow. Now that we're getting into the summer season, now's the time to talk about addressing both of those. It's an aging building, and it's going to require a lot of money because it will also require us with the bathroom project to have to dig into the police station, which is already crowded enough as it is. So it's just something that has been going on multiple times just in the short time I've been here. I understand that the Opera House is older and requires a lot of money, but We've, thousands of dollars of damage has been done to the Opera House this winter.
I did want to report that I did speak with Rick Davis about this issue. And he said there's nothing really big in the summer going on right now. But once the fall comes, that's when you're going to have 300 to 400 people in the Opera House.
Right.
So I think it would be a good time to address that this summer.
Okay.
And we did, Scott, I did call Jennifer when you weren't when you weren't able to call me back, and she did find there was a proposal from
Oh, good.
estimate from.
Yeah, I mean, it was a year ago, I think, wasn't it?
Yeah.
It was October, she said. Yeah. So maybe we could take a look at that again and maybe call Gugino and see if that cost is the same or did it go up?
Do we remember how
If you
much
could
it
do
was?
that.
It's not in the budget, whatever it is, so we may have to rent it out.
Didn't they shoot a camera in there?
Yeah, pinpoint a spot in the police station. We're gonna have to dig through the floor and open it up and stuff. And they put an estimate together, and I guess it was so long ago that I don't remember what it was.
Yeah.
She told me it was in October.
Well, the bottom line is, there's water on the floor when people try to use the
Right.
bathroom, so. it's-
Maybe if you
it's an
could look
issue.
into that for us.
Sure.
Yeah, see what that estimate would be. Thank you.
Also under old business, which we already discussed, number recreation fees, and then number 3, any other business. If there is none, I would ask for a motion to end the workshop.
I'll make that motion.
Do we have a second?
I'll second it.
Trustee Esperson?
Aye.
Trustee Brockler?
Aye.
Trustee Syracuse?
Aye.
Trustee Wendell?
Aye.
Trustee Twitchell?
Aye.
Ladies and gentlemen, we will be back at 7 o'clock for the regular meeting of the Fredonia Village Board. Same place, 3rd floor. We look forward to seeing you soon. Thank you. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the Board of Trustees of the Village of Fredonia, New York. Regular meeting on 911 Church Street, Fredonia, New York, 14063. Today is Monday, April 28, 2025. The regular meeting come to order. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Call this meeting to order at 7:01. On the 28th, roll call for trustees. Trustee Esperson.
Here.
Trustee Brockler.
Here.
Trustee Syracuse.
Here.
Trustee Wandell.
Here.
Trustee Twitchell.
Here.
Thank you. The approval of the minutes.
Whereas members of this board have read the official minutes of the Board of Trustees regular meeting of April 14th, 2025, and be it resolved that the board hereby approves the minutes as entered into the official minutes, and be it further resolved that the reading of the minutes be dispensed with.
Second.
Trustee Esperson.
Aye.
Trustee Brockler.
Aye.
Trustee Syracuse.
Aye.
Trustee Wandell.
Aye.
Trustee Twitchell.
Aye.
This portion of the meeting is for public comment. Any member of the public wishing to speak, once recognized, shall stand at the microphone and state their name and address. Speakers will be allowed 3 minutes if speaking for themselves, or 5 minutes if speaking on behalf of a group. I will ask the speakers to refrain from remarks that are in poor taste, slanderous, or not germane to any action taken or contemplated by the board.
I apologize if I mess up your name here. Eileen? Aileen, Dr. Galt?
I'd like to thank you for this opportunity this evening. My concerns are twofold. One is the speed that is happening on Chestnut Street. I live at 277 Chestnut Street towards the bottom. And yes, it's posted 30 miles an hour, and yes, there's a stop sign at Risley, but even school buses are coming down, up and down that street really way too fast. And unfortunately, last year, I got a letter about how I needed to mow and take care of my ditch. And I spoke, and everything's been taken care of, but I've almost been hit a few times because the road down there is narrow. Most of the Lower Chestnut has ditches, and I've spoken to Scott, and my ditch is going to be taken care of. He said it was a possibility. But I almost got clipped again the other day on just getting my mail. So they're really coming down fast, and I was sorry to hear from the chief that they're down a person or two, because I was going to ask the board and perhaps the chief if we can run some radar on that road, make a bigger police presence for a while to see if we can get that slowed down. It's a neighborhood in transition. I mean, I've lived there 43 years. My next door neighbor has 2, but now we have more young families moving in with kids and pets. So it's a safety issue. So I was just wanting to put it in front of the board.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Mr. Sandreo.
Thank you, Mayor. The proposed budget shows a $1.5 million increase in the amount of taxes to be raised by the village for this coming fiscal year compared to last year. This would result in a 62% approximately increase in village tax rate. To my knowledge, the village board and the village residents have not received any written report explaining the reasons for this proposed tax increase. The Observer stated that the budgetary handwriting has been on the wall for some time, but no one has been able to read it because it was evidently written in Sanskrit. The Observer's statement, however, I think should be expanded to state, if no one can read the budget, then the village board should ask for and receive a plain English written explanation to explain the budget to the board and make recommendations for corrections in the future. There's that old saying, if you ignore history, it's likely to repeat itself. The proposed tax rate of $61.09 will create a definite hardship to many village residents, and it will have an adverse impact on the marketability of Fredonia real estate. According to the board's proposed budget, this will result in an increase of $540 per household. This is going to create a hardship for many people. I have two specific questions. Our village real estate tax is proposed to be used to pay the $825,000 revenue anticipation note. My understanding in New York State finance laws that real estate taxes cannot be used to pay a revenue anticipation note. So where is the revenue coming from to pay off this note? The other question I have is the budget shows a reduction in revenues from Pomfret for fire protection. Has the existing Fredonia Pomfret agreement been changed? The agreement's been in place for many years and contained a fair and equitable formula, which Jim Sedota worked on, for payment to Fredonia for fire protection. Why is there a reduction in income from Pomfret when the expenses of the fire department have increased? Again, has this contract been amended? There's still some time left, not much, for the village board to review the budget, see what cuts can be made, and reduce the tentative tax rate to something reasonable and affordable. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Sam.
Yeah.
Mr. St. George, Rick St. George.
For those of you who don't know me, I've done the budgets here for the village for 13 years. So I know a little bit about it. My whole career of 45 years was in the finance area. That's all I worked on was budgets. So I'll start here. The original estimate of the fund balance that I saw was 766 positive on your adopted budget last year. All of a sudden, moving into the new fiscal year, it went down to a negative $307,000, rounding it out. That's a burn of $1,072,000 during the year. Does that sound right to anybody? You got an $8 million budget and you blew through almost $1.1 million? Doesn't that raise your suspicion as to where did that money go? And from what I understand, I don't see anything online or anything. Is there something that itemizes where this big deficit comes from? Because when I go through the numbers on this budget, I don't come to any place near that. So we'll leave it at that. The other thing that I want to make sure everybody knows is just because the average is $500, don't let it fool you. It's just trying to minimize the impact of this. My taxes are going up by $1,200 from this increase. So that's something that you should keep in the back of your mind. Not everybody's going up by $500. So, you know, one of the things that I'd like to know, as a resident of this village, how did we go from 766 to a $307,000 deficit? We were positive going into this. I went through this budget with a fine-tooth comb this afternoon. And of course, I got a minute left, which is a bunch of BS anyway, with this 3-minute time frame. There's hardly anybody here that's going to speak, and you're going to limit people. Passing on a 65% increase in taxes, and then you're going to limit what they can say and how long they can say it, that's ludicrous. It's insulting. Just want you to know that. I worked here for 13 years. Sam worked here for almost 50 years. Never did we have a time frame for people to speak.
When in place, this Mrs. Landis and Sam and Mrs. Landis are the ones who passed
Yeah,
it.
a lot of this dates back, all of the problems, a lot of these problems date back to there. You don't have an administrator right now that could have brought this to your attention a hell of a lot sooner than when it came to. That's true. It came out at the very end. Oh, by the end of the month, we're going to be out of money. How does that even happen? Do you have budget transfer reports? Do you have look at the budget during the year at least 6, 7, 8, 10 times? I mean, why didn't anybody see this happening? They had to see it happening. So I guess I'm done, right?
Yes, sir.
Oh, okay. Because I can't get into any of the numbers that I worked up here and show you some things that I'm concerned about. But I'd be happy to meet with anybody at the end of this meeting to show you, because there's something wrong with this budget.
Be happy to meet with you.
Fine.
Thank you.
You're on.
Frank Magus?
I have to correct you, I had nothing to do with that 3-minute rule. I was not the attorney that enacted that or suggested it. Just want to clarify, I don't know where you got that from. We never had a 3-minute rule.
It's in the charter.
Frank Magus.
Hi, how you doing? I got some pictures down here now.
Yes, sir.
The charter.
Thank you.
Yeah, so long as 65% increase in taxes, then you go around people.
I live over on Aaron's Place. If you're going down Newton Street, and you look across the field, you see townhouses. Well, there's a huge field there. Now, the building code for that field, the grass is supposed to be at 6 inches. It's never been that. And I've lived there since 2007. And what happens is the person doesn't take care of that property. The grass gets 2 feet tall, 3 feet tall, 4 feet tall. I was out there in 5-foot weeds last year with a weed killer trying to kill some of that stuff. But what happens is so much wildlife comes in there, you would not believe it. Raccoons, skunks, fox, everything. That property has city water in it, city water pipes. I don't know if yeah, because they were gonna expand those apartments, so it's got water pipes in it, water mains. I've seen the village there 2 times in the last 15 years because they had water pools in there fixing the water lines. We had a fire there about 2 years ago. This first picture is looking between the townhouses at that field. See that big tree that's down? That'll block a fire truck. If a water main breaks under it, the village is gonna have to remove that tree before they can repair the water line. Now here, look at the second page. Look how big this tree is. Now, a lot of children from those apartments, when it's warmer, they'll be playing in this field. Well, I've seen as many as 13 deer out there. The deer bed underneath that tree, okay? And if you've got deer, you've got ticks. You've got deer ticks, which is Lyme's disease, and children are playing in that stuff. Let's go to the third page. The code is supposed to be 6 inches. Look at that pile of brush. That's why we have skunks, we have raccoons, we have possums. I've trapped fox in there. I've shot at coyotes out there. And now, this is what really scares me. Fisher cats. We have fisher cats in there. I couldn't even freaking believe it. There's a fisher cat back there that was about that long. Now, if you don't think that'll harm a child, just go on YouTube and put in fisher cat attacks. See what it'll do to a toddler. Now look at this next picture, right? See, look at the picture after that. Look how close that is to that apartment. This is back behind the brush line. Look at that picture. Now, look at the last picture. See that picture with the duck there? There is no pond back there. Never has been. All there has been back there is 2 water main leaks in the middle of the winter, and they come in and they fix it. Where this pond is with a duck, we got ducks back there, must be a water main leak. It's going on right now in there. I don't know if they have equipment but I go up to the building inspector, and first I asked a realtor
Excuse me,
friend of
Frank,
mine.
I can meet with you another time on this. If you want to finish up, please.
Yeah, I went up to a building inspector, and up to a realtor. I said, how do you get them to do something? Well, file a written complaint. So I went up there and I said, I want to file a written complaint. Well, we don't have a form for that. Well, here's the City of Dunkirk complaint form. They have one. And this is how they enforce the law, okay? This is a law. Go to the second page, and what they do is they tell somebody to mow their lawn.
Mayor.
Okay, sir?
Yep.
To be fair to the other gentleman at 3 minutes, you gotta keep that in. I would be happy to meet with you and talk more about this. And I promise you, first thing we'll do tomorrow is talk it over with our folks as well. And we'll also talk to Scott at DPW about that. But I'll be glad to meet with you, sir. Thank you for your time. Correspondence.
Correspondence dated April 14th, 2025 was received from Ryland Tunstall requesting to use.
Anybody else sign up to
Not on the
speak?
sheet.
Bill Burns, I apologize, Bill Burns. Sorry, Bill.
Just some observations, watching this, following this budgetary crisis the last few weeks or month and a half. Just like to start out saying, there really is no justifiable legal or moral imperative to keep positions filled when there's no money to keep them filled. To me, to do otherwise is just a failed socialist experiment. But that was my main point. As far as the impact this would have, with residents here, obviously it's going to be a trickle out, because I don't see this trend stopping. I think everyone here knows that these arguments put forth about where to cut, it's just so silly and trivial, talking about taking away someone's cell phone and a playground fee and reducing a trustee's salary by $100 a month or I mean, the whole thing is this nonsense. I think everyone knows where to right this ship, what you would have to do, and it's having the courage to make the hard decisions. I don't think anyone in this room has the courage to do it. It's easy for me to say because I'm not sitting there. But as an observer, if I was, I would do the right thing. I probably would be the one on the jury who doesn't go along with the rest. But I would say, the implications of this, I saw another article, I don't know if anyone has been following this trend with post-COVID, what's happened in the real estate market across middle America, across America in general. As these inflated real estate prices continue to rise, as well as the taxes, that creates this vacuum of, the Wall Street-backed corporations buying up just huge swatches of real estate, mostly residential. And I just think that has to be considered, the impact. I've talked to, this area is no different. I'm sure everyone in this room has heard that. Someone's house is up for sale and some corporation comes in and buys it. You think you got problems with Fred Fest? Once a year, you'll have a Fred Fest constantly in your town. Once the whole demographic of the town changes, the whole town will become one big rental flat. And that's where this is all going. So there's a lot more implications to this than just a short-term, little cut on someone. It's not good, and I think you have to consider that as well. But I think that's about all I have to say tonight. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. I apologize for missing your name there, Bill. I saw it earlier.
Everybody else? We got everybody?
Yep. Mayor's report. Well,
We have to do correspondence.
we do have we do have one correspondence?
Yeah.
Okay, correspondence.
Was received from Ryland Tunstall requesting to use Russell Joy Park for a pickleball tournament on Sunday, June 8th, 2025.
Be resolved at the request of Ryland Tunstall to hold a pickleball tournament from 10 a.m. until it's finished at Russell Joy Park with refreshments provided afterward is hereby approved. Be further resolved that Ms. Tunstall will provide the village clerk's office a certificate of insurance naming the Village of Fredonia as additionally insured in the amount of $1 million at least 2 weeks prior to the event.
Second.
Trustee Syracuse?
Aye.
Trustee Wendell?
Aye.
Trustee Twitchell?
Aye.
Trustee Brockler?
Aye.
Trustee Esperson?
Aye.
Anything else? Okay, the mayor's report. Sadly, and I mentioned this in the workshop, we have to talk about the east side of Barker Commons, which has been vandalized sometime over the weekend. 2 more flower pots have been removed from the historic fountains in Barker Commons, which will cost thousands of dollars to replace. and we had damage to the visitors booth in the form of broken windows. If you are aware of the whereabouts of the flower pots, please give us or the police department a call. We will prosecute the offenders if found. Damage to the fountains, in some cases, take many, many months to repair, and many hundreds and thousands of dollars, which, as you can see, we currently don't have. So once again, if you're aware of 2 of the gold flower pots that were removed from the fountains, please give the Fredonia Police a call, or you can call my office if you know of the people, and I will tell you that there is a camera that faces that park, which I will be reviewing with Chuck and or the police department. And those people are caught. They will be prosecuted. Paving on Main Street starts on Thursday, and we will have the new layout of the street plan, which was approved by the Street Department, Street Committee, as well as New York State Department of Transportation. So we may find some delays later in the afternoon or on the way home. So if you have alternative routes to your home or to your business from Main Street, you may want to keep an eye on that. I did make a presentation with President Stephen Collison at the Relay for Life. We thank them for this annual cancer drive, which raised over $10,000 through student activity and through the general public that walked there. I'd also like to congratulate Rick Davis and the folks at the Opera House who ran a fine race this weekend. It was great to see all the activity downtown. I want to congratulate Agri-America on Water Street. During this time when some companies are deciding to move on from different communities, Agri-America has stood their ground and continued to preserve our history as an agricultural community and our history of food processing with a multi-million-dollar expansion to their Water Street plant. We received acknowledgement not only from Agri-America, but the governor's office as well. We will have a couple of new restaurants moving into the downtown core. Raven and Thorn will be coming to the Water Street area. We'll also have a new food entity moving into the former Subway, former Bodega on Main Street, and hopefully more coming about. As Chuck told you, Sonic has been approved, and having spoken last week with Ken Morris of the hospital, you've seen that that building has been taken down, the old Cornell University research building. New pipe has been put into the ground, and the grape vineyards have been removed from that area. So it'll be just a matter of time before we start moving forward. I think Chuck is bringing in additional drawings, is that it? Additional drawings coming up that should feature some new additions to what the original plan was supposed to be. So that's all I have right now. I want to thank everybody for the very nice cards and the phone calls during my surgical recovery, and it's appreciated by both myself and my wife Diane and family. And we thank you for your continued support. So that will wrap up my report for today. Trustee committee reports. Trustee Brockler.
Nothing at this time.
Trustee Esperson.
Yeah, we already talked about the T2 system, handheld devices, giving out tickets. We met with that gentleman, in my opinion, wasn't going to save us any money because the meters were still going to have to be replaced, still going to have to be repaired, still going to have to buy batteries for them. So there's that. We talked about the Labella Department of Health meeting that we had about the chlorination system. I spoke with someone from the Department of, Hospice. Their hospice butterfly release scheduled for Saturday, June 7th. They're working with WCA Home for a pickup spot for the North County. There was a Observer editorial last week that accused the village of not submitting financial paperwork to the State Controller's Office for the year 2023. The reason that report wasn't submitted is because our auditors haven't furnished us with the information that needs to be submitted to the State Controller's Office. As soon as we receive the information from the auditors. I'm sorry?
That's not right.
Yeah, that's right.
No, that's internal.
It's the audit from Malecki and whoever. They're asking, the state is asking for their report. They haven't given us that report yet. But there was an assumption that the treasurer's not, there's an assumption that the treasurer's not submitting required paperwork, and that's just not, that's misleading at best. There was a comment made that, about the contract we have with the town of Pomfret. Actually, those payments went up considerably. The first year, 2025, the yearly amount is $540,489. Year 2 is $549,948. And year 3 is $559,572, which is a significant increase from the last contract.
But your amount is less than your budget.
A good portion of that goes to the volunteers. It's so that is in a different line.
And on the budget line for fire protection.
Right.
You show a decrease
There
in
was-
revenues from Pomfret from this year.
I believe that was an
6,000
old
this year.
one from this year because it decreased the last trustees that worked on that. They decreased it every year, I know.
They decreased it?
Yes, they
Yeah.
did.
Yeah, the
Yes, they
last
did.
contract had
Just answer my
decreasing
question.
amounts.
Right,
This one does not.
right,
Our costs are going up and they're decreasing it.
I know.
That was the last
That
contract,
was,
not this
that wasn't
contract.
us. That was.
That was the last
I don't
board
care what
before us.
contract, it shouldn't go backwards.
Yeah.
It's not.
I mean, is there any numbers in here that are going backwards?
You want to see the contract?
I'd love to see it.
Here you go. It's the
I get a
contract.
copy?
I can make you a copy. Go ahead and look at it and make you a copy.
Okay.
When was that contract approved?
Late last year, early this year?
By village board resolution?
Mhm.
Yes.
Yep.
Okay. I don't know why they would ever reduce it.
We're not
No,
reducing it.
no,
That was the
that was
last
before
contract, not
us.
this one.
That was the previous
administration.
contract.
Previous.
Sam,
It was the
previous
previous
administration
contract.
reduced it.
It was the previous contract that covered this
Yeah.
fiscal year's payment, or most of this fiscal year's
Right.
payment.
The figures I gave you are the figures for the contract signed this year, where they're increasing about 10,000 every year. I didn't mean to get off on tangent, I'm sorry.
And there's no reason for that decrease?
I can't tell you what happened the last time the contract was
weren't
signed, I
here.
wasn't part of that.
I wonder if you knew why they,
I have no idea,
That's a good question. I'd
Yeah,
like
no
to
idea.
know too. Yeah,
yeah.
I know.
Trustees, do you have anything else in your report?
No, that's all I have.
Thank you. Trustee Syracuse.
Also, John didn't mention, the state comptroller's office is currently here conducting an edit. So, it's, you know, submitting a report to them that we didn't have the information for from our own auditors. I mean, they're already here doing the audit, so. Attic and cellar registration is open. You can register online at embracefredonia.com or in person here at Village Hall. Attic and cellar days are gonna be June 6th, 7th, and 8th. Community Planning Day is Saturday, May 31st at 9 a.m. Everyone will be meeting in Barker Commons. And you can find more information and updates on both events on the Embrace Fredonia Facebook page as well as embracefredonia.com. That is all I have.
Trustee Twitchell.
Yes, I did help out with the Opera House run, and that was a really successful morning. It went really well, and I'm happy that a lot of people came out that day because it was a really beautiful morning too. And it was good to see everybody out raising money for the Opera House, and I'd like to congratulate Rick on that. And that's all I have today.
Thank you. Trustee Wendell.
The only thing I have is just a quick review of the planning board meeting on April 15th. Two basic items were discussed. The battery energy storage law was reviewed by the planning board members. Corrections will be made to the pages marked. New copy will be sent to each planning board member. Second, the cannabis law first draft. They're reviewing that as well, and next meeting.
Excuse me, can we pay some respect to the trustee giving his report? Thank you.
Go ahead.
Okay, thank you. Cannabis law first draft, so basically ongoing work in progress, further discussions to be had. That is it.
Thank you. No treasurer's report tonight, no additional reports tonight. Sam, I apologize to you. It was under Attorney Dan Guard that that 3-minute rule was put in place. So my apologies to you. And with regards to the administrator, the title of administrator is moved by a former mayor and also removed from the charter, which doesn't allow us to put that back in position, so. You can amend the charter. We can amend the charter in the future.
Thousands of dollars.
Certainly.
No, we don't.
Well, no, I just said certainly.
We're not going back and forth. Public portion is
Anyhow.
done. Thank you.
Resolutions.
Whereas, according to New York State's property tax cap legislation, if a village government decides to adopt a budget with a property tax levy that exceeds the level set by the state, the village government must pass a local law to override that cap. And whereas adopting said local law is not predicative of the final tax levy, but will provide the Village of Fredonia Board flexibility to exceed the property tax cap if it is deemed necessary, and to ensure that any state recalculation of the applicable limit will not make the village inadvertently out of compliance. And whereas a public hearing was held before the Village of Fredonia Board on April 16th at 6 p.m. to hear all persons interested in proposed local law number 4 of 2025, now therefore be it resolved that local law number 4 of 2025, local law to override the 2025-2026 tax cap limit is hereby adopted pursuant to subdivision 5 of General Municipal Law, Section 3C, which expressly authorizes the Village of Fredonia Board to override the tax levy limit by the adoption of a local law approved by the adoption of a local law approved by vote of 60% of the Village of Fredonia Board. Be it further resolved that the Village of Fredonia clerk shall publish in the official newspaper of the village a notice of adoption containing a synopsis of said local law, and shall within 20 days file one certified copy in the clerk's office and with the Secretary of State.
Second.
Trustee Esperson.
Aye.
Trustee Wendell.
Aye.
Trustee Twitchell.
Nay.
Trustee Syracuse.
Aye.
Trustee Brockler.
Aye.
Ben.
A resolution adopting a budget for the fiscal year commencing June 1st, 2025 and ending May 31st, 2026, making appropriations for the conduct of village government and establishing the rates of compensation for officers and employees for such period. Whereas this board has met at the time and place specified in the notice of public hearing on the tentative budget and heard all persons desiring to be heard thereon. Now therefore be it resolved that a tentative budget is amended and revised and is attached hereto, made part of thereof, is hereby adopted, and that several amounts stated in the column titled Adopted in Schedules 1A, 2A, 2F, 2G, and 3C, together with the amounts set forth in Schedule C, Debt Schedule, as required for the payment of principal and of interest on indebtedness by and there hereby, are appropriated for the objects and purposes specified, and the salaries and wages stated in Schedule 6 of such budget shall be and are hereby fixed at the amounts shown therein, effective June 1st, 2025.
Second.
Trustee Syracuse.
Aye.
Trustee Wendell.
I'd like to table this for the purpose of further discussion.
You needed to make that motion before.
He's making the motion now. I'll second that.
I would like to know why during the workshop, we didn't have a discussion when we talked about resolutions. So the resolution was on a schedule to adopt a budget. That's when we should have had the discussion about whatever changes you want to make to it. That was the time to have that discussion.
Well, Paul didn't know that, and that's why he's,
Paul didn't know that?
I don't believe he did.
We have a
Did you
motion
understand that, Paul?
to table, so.
Paul didn't know that we can have discussion about resolutions during the workshop? I don't
Well,
believe that.
I wanted to have another meeting, and you denied it.
It's not,
You denied coming in.
I didn't deny
on
doing
a
it.
couple of occasions.
You know
Yeah.
what, Michelle, I am not available every hour of every day, all right?
Yeah, well, I guess
Any
it's not
discussion,
important to you then.
any discussion we need to have on the budget could have been done, we could have been here till midnight if we have to be,
Correct.
to talk about the budget. That's why
You're
we're here.
gaslighting again, Sean. You
That's-
love gaslighting.
I'm not
That
gaslighting,
is
I'm
not
just stating the
gaslighting.
fact.
The opportunity was present during the workshop
And there's
to
your
discuss the
co-gaslight-
budget,
gaslighter.
and nobody said anything about the budget.
It's our time to talk, so he's
I'm saying
speaking
something
now.
now.
Okay,
He's
so,
speaking now.
so you do know what happens if we don't pass the budget by the end of this
It
fiscal?
falls back into the mayor's.
May 1st is Thursday.
Right.
Today's
Right.
April 28th.
So it has to be passed before Wednesday. Before
Clearly
before May
understood.
1st.
Right.
Yeah, yeah.
So if there's thoughts or concerns about listening to the public about this,
Well, hold on. Let's go through the motion, and it was seconded to table this resolution. Can we vote on that, please?
You vote on it? Who seconded?
Who seconded it?
I did.
Okay. So motion's on the table. That was brought up to table this. We had a
Correct.
second. Trustee Esperson?
No.
Trustee Brockler?
No.
Trustee Syracuse?
No.
Trustee Wendell?
aye.
Trustee Twitchell?
Aye.
I believe we needed 4 votes.
Correct.
Does not pass.
I had something with the resolution, if I could, where it says that all people have had the right or the ability to speak about the budget.
The public portion
That
is
would have to
closed.
take- that would- you know what? Okay. In the audit, by the way, that the comptroller's
The public
office.
portion is closed, sir.
Time out.
And we had a public hearing on this budget as well.
That should be taken out of that.
We did have a public hearing.
Not the public hearing, you didn't listen to all of what people had to say.
Can we proceed with the vote on the budget, please?
You just did.
No, that was to table it.
Okay, bring the vote to budget. Trustee Esperson?
I'm gonna say aye because of the impact if we do not pass it in the next couple days. And because we had 4 weeks to get.
Oh, my God.
Do you mind? We had four weeks, we had 4 meetings to get this budget together. We had all day today to talk about it, if that's what was
And I
necessary.
asked you to talk about it this morning, and you told me no.
I was taking my wife to a doctor's appointment, if that's okay with you. I'll schedule that through you next
Okay,
time.
folks, can we
That's-
continue the budget, the vote? So we have 1 yes. Trustee Twitchell?
Nay.
Trustee Brockler?
Aye.
Trustee Syracuse?
Aye.
Trustee Wendell?
Nay.
3-2. Fails.
It's a pass. Do we need supermajority?
You needed
Yeah.
4.
For the budget? Or the tax levy?
Oh.
Tax levy is supermajority.
Tax levy is.
Is the budget supermajority? I don't think so.
Well, do you
I
want to
don't-
ask Sam?
I don't
Sam
believe
was
it
an
is.
I don't
attorney
think it
here.
is. Yeah, that just passed.
It passed.
Okay, 3-2.
So it passed.
Passed.
If I find out different, I'm gonna come back and we can reconvene.
There you go. Trustee Syracuse?
Sorry. Be it resolved that Bradley Lawson, Asheville, New York, is hereby appointed to the position of full-time patrolman with the Village of Fredonia Police Department effective May 11th, 2025, at a rate of pay of $28.03 per hour for a term of 18 months probation, subject to all civil service rules and regulations.
Second?
Trustee Twitchell?
Aye.
Trustee Wendell?
Aye.
Trustee Syracuse?
Aye.
Trustee Brockler?
Aye.
Trustee Esperson?
Aye. Whereas the Village of Fredonia sent out a request for proposals for additional legal services, and whereas Lippis Mathias LLP, Buffalo, New York, submitted a proposal to the request of a rate not to exceed $270 per hour for a partner, $200 per hour for an associate, $105 per hour for paralegal, for legal and labor law matters, whereas any legal services that require the appropriation of funds must receive prior board approval through resolution. Be it resolved, the village board hereby authorizes to add Lippis Mathias LLP, Buffalo, New York, to the approved vendor list, but do require prior authorization of use.
Second.
Before we go to vote, I want to make mention, as I did in the newspaper, as I did on this broadcast, and as I did throughout various discussions, many communities have multiple attorneys. Number 1, number 2, as is stated here, you pay them when and if you use them. If they are not used, there is no cost to the village. With that, we ask for a vote. Trustee Twitchell.
Aye.
Trustee Wendell.
Aye.
Trustee Syracuse.
Aye.
Trustee Brockler.
Aye.
Trustee Esperson.
Aye.
Thank you.
Whereas the village requires the payment of fees for the impounding of dogs within village limits, and whereas the current fee structure requires updating, and whereas the following fee structure will be implemented immediately to assist with covering fees for the impounding of dogs. Day 1, $60. Day 2, $80. Day 3, $100. Day 4, $120. Day 5, $140. Be it resolved, the village board hereby authorizes the implementation of the fee structure for the impounding of dogs.
Trustee Esperson.
Aye.
Trustee Brockler.
Aye.
Trustee Syracuse.
Aye.
Trustee
I
Wendell.
believe there wasn't a second on that.
There was.
Ben
He did.
said
Ben
second. I'm
seconded.
sorry. I
Did
cut
Ben
him
say
off.
second? Okay, thank you. Aye.
Okay. And Trustee Wendell, you did say aye?
Aye.
Okay, passed.
Be it resolved that the Village of Fredonia, location code 40180, hereby establishes the following as standard work days for its employees and will report days worked to New York State and local employees' retirement system based on the timekeeping system or the record of activities maintained and submitted by these members to the clerk of this body. Title: firefighter, standard workday 8, I presume that's hours. Fire captain, 8 hours. Fire lieutenant, 8 hours. Fire chief, 8 hours.
Second.
Trustee Twitchell.
Aye.
Trustee Esperson.
Aye.
Trustee Brockler.
Aye.
Trustee Wendell.
Aye.
Trustee Syracuse.
Aye.
Whereas the agreement with the Fredonia, or the Pomfret Water District requires village approval for all new water services, whereas the town of Pomfret has received the application of a residential water service at 4699 Berry Road. Whereas the Pomfret Town Board will have this on their agenda to approve the application at the next town board meeting, May 14th, 2025. Now therefore be resolved, the Village of Fredonia hereby approves the residential water service connection at 4699 Berry Road, Fredonia, New York.
Second.
Trustee Brockler.
Aye.
Trustee Syracuse.
Aye.
Trustee Wendell.
Aye.
Trustee Twitchell.
Aye.
Trustee Esperson.
Aye.
Whereas the village intends to raise the fee schedule for the code enforcement office, now therefore, whereas the following fee schedule would be implemented immediately to assist with violations. Commercial electric permits, 40. In-ground swimming pool, $100 plus 2% of the cost. Detached private garages, $100 plus 10 cents per square feet. Area variance, $200. Use variance, $500. Special use permits, $500. Seeker short form, $100. Seeker long form, $300. New cell tower, $4,000. Co-locate on existing cell tower, $2,000. All modifications to towers, $1,500. There are no current fees in the following areas, and these new fees are new to the village. Commercial solar projects, proposed $2,000 plus $150 per acre. Battery electric storage systems, $5,000. Site plan review, $250 to $500 plus $10 per acre. Minor subdivision, $100 to $500. All other subdivisions, $250 to $500 plus $50 per lot. Reinspection fee where violations have not been corrected goes from $45 to $75 for each time. Be it resolved, the village board hereby authorizes the implementation of this fee structure for the code enforcement office.
Second.
Trustee Esperson.
Aye.
Trustee Brockler.
Aye.
Trustee Syracuse.
Aye.
Trustee Wendell.
Aye.
Trustee Twitchell.
Aye. Whereas the village previously created a reserve fund policy for its general fund of 10 to 25%, and whereas the upcoming 2025-26 fiscal year requires that the village's general fund reserve balance to go below the policy amount. Therefore, be it resolved, the village board hereby authorizes to override the general fund balance policy for the upcoming fiscal year. This will be reviewed thereafter on an annual basis.
Second.
Second.
Trustee Esperson.
Aye.
Trustee Syracuse.
Aye.
Trustee Brockler.
Aye.
Trustee Wendell.
Aye.
Trustee Twitchell.
Aye.
Whereas the village is continuing its review and assessment of the water systems and is aware of the need of improvement, maintenance, repair to the water treatment plant's chlorination system. Whereas the village is currently operating under a state of emergency declaration related to the condition of the village water system and has endured the necessity of several boil water orders recently as a result of the current state of the chlorination system. Whereas Chautauqua County Department of Health has advised that the current state of the village's water treatment plant chlorination system is in immediate need of repair and is in such a state as to represent a current and continuing public emergency affecting the health and safety of the residents of Fredonia. Whereas the village has sought proposals from firms to assist in the assessment and implementation of necessary changes to the chlorination system project, and has received a proposal from LaBelle Associates to provide such services at a cost of $109,000, including but not limited to inspections, design, installation, evaluation, assessment, sourcing of necessary parts and equipment, and construction observation to monitor compliance with specifications. And whereas the village is considering proceeding with the use of LaBelle's professional services to assist in implementation of the necessary upgrades or repairs through equipment selection, purchase, installation, completion of the project. Whereas the village is considering the impact of the chlorination system repairs and upgrades the project on the environment in accordance with New York State Environmental Quality Review Act, Article 8 of the New York State Environmental Conservation Law and associated regulations, including the implementing regulations and other regulations found in 6 NYCRR 617.1 seeker, including evaluating such impacts, if any, to the village's decision to provide funding or proceed further with the project. Whereas pursuant to the required seeker review undertaken for the project, the village has conferred with council, the county Department of Health, LaBella, and relevant employees and agents of the village, and it has reviewed, among other provisions of the seeker regulations, 6 NYCRR Part 617.1, which provide that certain activities are denominated Type 2 actions, meaning that such actions are not subject to review under seeker, including, and quote, maintenance or repair involving no substantial changes in an existing structure or facility and/or replacement, rehabilitation, or reconstruction of a structure or facility in kind on the site, or and/or emergency actions that are immediately necessary on a limited and temporary basis for the protection and preservation of life, health, and property. Type 2 actions are not subject to review under seeker as they have been deemed to not result in a significant adverse impact on the environment. 6 NYCRR Part 617.5 C1 and/or Subparts 2 and/or 8 of 6 NYCRR Part 617.5 C. Now therefore be resolved, based on the foregoing, the water treatment plant chlorination system upgrade project is a Type 2 action under seeker as it constitutes, including but not limited to maintenance or repair activities or in kind, same site replacement, rehabilitation, or reconstruction activities, and/or emergency actions necessary for the protection of the life and health of village residents without exceeding any of the applicable thresholds pursuant to 6 NYCRR Part 617.5, with the above whereas clause is incorporated by reference to these findings, and therefore as a Type 2 action, no further seeker review is necessary. The requirements of seeker have been satisfied, and this resolution shall take effect immediately. The mayor is authorized to execute the proposal from LaBella for the services outlined above, and the mayor and board members are authorized to continue to work with LaBella Associates and other relevant entities, agencies, and individuals for implementation of the necessary upgrades and repairs through equipment selection, purchase, installation, and completion of the project. That based on the above, this project is declared a public emergency project arising from a condition affecting the life, health, and safety of the inhabitants of Fredonia, requiring immediate action which cannot await competitive bidding or competitive offering for the purchase of supplies, materials, or equipment, and therefore the mayor and board are authorized to proceed with such purchases and contracts that are necessary and appropriate to complete the chlorination system repair and upgrade project without further resolution from this board.
Second.
I do want to say that you do tend to get the longest resolutions at every meeting, but.
All right.
Trustee Twitchell.
Aye.
Trustee Wendell.
Aye.
Trustee Syracuse.
Aye.
Trustee Brockler.
Aye.
Trustee Esperson.
Aye.
If there's nothing else, is there a reason to go into executive session?
It won't take long. This contract for fire protection has fixed amounts for 3 years. Our costs in the village aren't fixed. Our costs for fire protection go up quite a bit. I don't know where these figures came, but there should be a formula that takes into account the increased costs that our fire department has. So we're not bound into a fixed amount. I don't know why we'd ever agree to fixed amounts. We don't do that with water rates or with sewer rates. If our rates go up, the town rates go up proportionally.
Every contract we've had with them have been fixed amounts. Every contract.
Well, I was there. Jim said, oh, we had 4 rates.
Thank you for your comments.
I make a motion that we end the meeting.
Okay, and a second?
Second.
Trustee Twitchell?
Aye.
Trustee Wendell?
Aye.
Trustee Syracuse?
Aye.
Trustee Brockler? Trustee Esperson?
Aye.
Ladies and gentlemen, the next Village of Fredonia Board of Trustees workshop and board meeting will take place Monday, May 12th at 2025, 6 p.m. in the trustee room, this room, second floor, Village Hall, board meeting to follow. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Mr. Johnson and Mr. Mangus. Can I see you for just a second when we're done? Yes.
What's the estimated cost of the chlorinating system?
$109,000.
One-
109.